Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 4th of April, comes to you from London. And we start by just looking at the markets. We see most stock indices in the red, China being the exception there, but we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off after quite a good run in the last few days, so no big surprises there. The dollar is just slightly down on its basket index and just turning a little bit more bearish there, but still looking medium and long term bullish. And the euro dollar, as a result, is just improving slightly and now back above the cloud on the short term chart, but still medium and long term bearish. Against the Japanese yen, we see the dollar has actually also just flattened off there, but the fact that it's holding up against the yen is pretty bullish for the dollar. Sterling sitting at 131.72. Vote last night to not leave without a deal has helped, and we're seeing sterling just looking a little bit stronger on those charts against the dollar. Against the euro, looking much stronger, bullish on all three time frames, and against the Swiss franc, we're also sitting at 131, up a bit as well there. Bitcoin is up 1% this morning, holding the $5,000 mark, so that's actually quite significant that we saw that jump in that hour on Tuesday, and we've actually just managed to keep rising and hold that gain. So we are seeing some buying interest coming back, and that's looking quite bullish for Bitcoin. The S&P 500 index was up 0.2% last night, so just edging higher, and the Nasdaq 100 also up. And we see here on the weekly chart that weekly candle just showing how we've gapped up in the week, and we're looking quite a lot stronger than we have been. The Dow is actually up overnight after the big falls due to Walgreens the day before, so we're looking strong there. And the Russell 2000 index is bullish, but just not as strong as the other indices. The futures this morning, we see the S&P future down 0.1%, the Nasdaq E-mini down 0.2%. And if we look at the UK market, the FTSE 100 down 0.6%, so just struggling a little bit there, and the FTSE 250 down 0.5%. So we are seeing a little bit of a retracement in the indices. The DAX down 0.2%, and the CAC 40 is down 0.3%. But on the whole, these indices still looking very ripe for a strong recovery. Looking at the Japanese market, we're down overnight slightly, but we're still bullish on the medium and short term charts. And the Hang Seng is still looking strong, although it was down slightly. China continues to rise. We're up 1% on the Shanghai index, and it was really bucking the market. Trade talk hopes are really improving matters there. India relatively flat, little change overnight, still looking good, and the Aussie market also bullish on all three time frames. Brent crude down 0.4%, having just nudged that $70 mark, which is where our targets have been. We're still bullish on all three time frames, but we're just coming back a little bit. And WTI also off 1/3%, so we're just seeing that as well. US nat gas continues to struggle at $2.68, just in the doldrums generally. Gold is at $12.91 this morning, just struggling to break back into that short-term bullish territory, but for the moment, medium and long term, the charts are looking okay. We haven't yet activated this downside target here, and that's the thing to watch on that medium term 0.5% point and figure chart. The silver chart looking a bit more solid, and US 10-year yields also looking to recover on that short-term chart, but medium and long-term still looking bearish. German bond prices falling away as a result of those stronger yield prices. This data all coming from Thomson Reuters Icon, or if you're a private user, Metastock Zenith, the same system. Very good. Looking at stocks now, looking at Yahoo Finance, we see the US indices were positive, Europe all red, Asia mostly red. And if we look at the Dow 30, the best performer in the Dow was DuPont, up 2.3%, and Boeing was the worst performer, down 1.5%. The DuPont share price, though, really hasn't really recovered as a result of those big falls last week. Looking at Boeing, we see here we're still just struggling to recover as a result of the 737 crisis, having outperformed very strongly the first few months of the year. That has taken a hit on the shares. Looking at the Nasdaq 100, the best performer was AMD, up 8.5%, a very strong performance there. Liberty Global also were up 4%, not quite enough to really make the long-term chart look any different, but we're just starting to nudge that resistance level there at around $25. Taking a look at the downside, Insight Corporation, we're down 2.7%. Aussie market, we see here the best performer is Sierra Resources again. They really are consistently hitting the leaderboard in the last few days, although it's still in a downtrend on all three time frames. We've got a lot of ground to make up, so a lot of volatility heading into the stock there. Eclipse Group also big falls, just recoveries that we're seeing. On the downside, Ingham's Group was down 6%, although the chart doesn't actually look as bad, so it's interesting that the fallers tend to have the better chart at the moment in Oz. China was mostly up. We had a handful of stocks down. Really, Chinese stocks are starting to really motor. India, if we look at India Bulls Housing again, in the leaderboard, we're seeing a real recovery in the shares here. No real clear upside target, so that does make it quite hard to read this. So we are just seeing some conflicting signals there. We're turning bullish on the trend, but no clear targets on the upside. As compared to Tata, where we're seeing actually that we do have good upside targets and the recovery coming through. And here we see the live prices just coming through from Yahoo Finance now as we speak. Tata Consultancy Services, on the other hand, down nearly 3%. So although the chart's still looking pretty bullish, and targets in both directions, so a little bit of uncertainty there. Into Europe now, and if we look at the UK market, first of all, Ocado Group leading again. They've been very strong performer, making new all-time highs. A great looking share. You know, it's amazing they've gone up fivefold in the last year and a half. They really have rocketed. Hargreaves Lansdown up 1%, also looking strong for a recovery, although their relative chart is looking pretty dire over the start of this year. They had a very bad start to the year, but they've just in the last few days really started to come good. If we look at the downside, we've got Direct Line Insurance down nearly 5%, so they've been hit quite hard. DS Smith down 3%. Again, recovery just struggling to get underway there. Looking at the 250, UDG Healthcare is the best performer, up 3%. Not enough really to get this chart into positive territory. Electro Components up 2.5%. Is looking like a recovery, and we've got some upside targets, so that one is looking better. And if we look at the downside, we've got Saga Group down a massive 34% this morning on their results, with a big write down, and so that's really hit them quite hard. TPI Cap also down 4.6%, and their chart looking pretty bearish. Looking across to Europe now on the Euro stocks, Iberdrola, the best performer, up 0.7% in Spain. BMW up 0.6%, so looking quite strong there. And on the downside, we've got Eni down 1.17%, so they're in Italy, they're just struggling there, and BASF in Germany. A recovery, but not performing this morning, down 1%. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.